Now, on Wednesday, Minister-designate in charge of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, through his official X handle, X was former Twitter, has promised not to disappoint President Bola Tinubu over his ministerial appointment. Nigerians are now waiting to see what he will bring to the table that will ensure the growth and success of the aviation and aerospace sector. Well, joining us now to chat a course of action for the minister are two experts in the aviation, people who have been analyzing the sector, who understand the goings-on there. I have Olumide Ohuayo here, member of the Aviation Roundtable, and Tayo Juri, an aviation consultant. Gentlemen, nice to see you both.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Now, I believe that both of you have heard people's comments here and there when the president allocated portfolios to the ministers, nominees that were, screened by the National Assembly, and aviation was given to Festus Keyamo. So many persons said, well, he's an active person and all of that, but some persons, from comments, because on social media you get to hear a lot of those things, they were saying they wondered if he had enough background in the aviation sector to be able to push the ministry forward. But I'll leave it for you to comment on that, what you've been hearing and what you think. Tayo, let me start with you on this.
What you heard is what I heard.
All right.
However, I'm of the school of thought that leadership trait is what actually sets the tone.
Okay.
It's not about, you have some peculiarities. They say round holes, round pegs for round holes, or square pegs for round holes. Yes, you have a challenge, and in this instance, we have to hit the ground running because we have existing challenges, pre-existing challenges. So we need to address that. However, with this said, I believe that there should be strong leadership traits that will set the leadership apart, and that will show the commitment and the way that the ministry and the policies, because aviation is not just Nigerian aviation, it's global and intertwined. So it's been able to show that leadership skills, bring the people and the professionals on board, and have what I call the collaborative decision making, which would actually ensure that it's seamless. It's not going to be El Dorado, but it's going to ensure that there's actually more traction. And we're going to take off and start cruising in ample time. All right.
It's leadership trait that matters. Olumide, I wonder if you agree the same way, because the aviation sector is kind of peculiar because of the history of what it has gone through and all of that, and all of the stakeholders and the players in there who have been there for a long time. So the ability and capacity to manage those people with the hindsight of what, the information and the background and knowing what that is. I wonder what you make of that.
Yeah, I think I agree with Tayo that leadership skills and quality is key in managing any ministry. To say the truth, we're not expecting him. We're not expecting to King. There will be the lady that was the former chairman House Committee on Aviation, but that was about the only person in that list that had anything to do with aviation. But then he has come. He was in the Ministry of Employment, so he must have known what the union's activities are, and expects that, because that is very strong in the aviation industry. I'm happy. One thing I noticed about his appointment was that when he was not on a list, he was quiet, and everybody was surprised that, look, this was a man that was talking so much, that was attacking anybody that took on the president. Now he's no on the list. And when they now brought his name on the second list, the first thing he went on X to was to thank God and say, Jehovah, thank you. So I think that should have humbled him a bit, and know that yes, you are not superhuman. You are like every other Nigerian. And when he was finally given a position, given the Ministry of Aviation as designate, he came with what you just said, then that he will not disappoint. And then I don't expect him to disappoint. The truth is, we've come from the way with him. We don't expect a third affiliation in the industry, because because what had happened to us in the past through Stella Oduah and the immediate past minister, Adesirika, a third one will be just disastrous for us. I just hope personally a lot of us will get away from the stress and trauma that we went through through the past immediate past minister and the baggages he has left behind, because he's not coming to start working and start running. He has a lot of things to look at before he starts. And you see, some of things are going to help him. He grew up in the farm quarters. One of the uncles was working in one of the agencies before, so he has lived in the airport environment. He was the one that handled the EFCC case against Femi Fani-Kayode for some corruption cases within the Ministry of Aviation. Though both of them sat together during the campaign, but he was one that handled the EFCC case against. So he had some history of what has been happening here, and I think before now he commented on sometime about 4 years ago he commented on the bad aviation fuel, that how could people be selling kerosene for aviation fuel, that was criminal. So about those three things should have, I think those should herald him into the industry and make him understand that there's a lot of work to do, coupled with what was left, the horrible baggage left behind by Adesirika.
Okay. Tayo, we now have, the ministry has been repackaged to add the aerospace. Now, for us who we just buy tickets and fly, we don't know all of that, what all that means. The aerospace that is added to it now, what is going to be the character of the industry or the ministry? What does that mean? How different would it be?
Well, I wonder why that chuckle is coming from. But it's, there was no need for aerospace.
Okay.
Aviation is all encompassing. And aerospace, in my mind, is more of research and development.
Okay.
We've not even launched a balloon yet, talk less of launching a shuttle. And that's where the aerospace comes from. So we need to have all our ducks in a row. We like the talk, it's more of doing.
Or maybe it's possible the government is thinking of...
but when you get the aviation space right, you have the infrastructure right, you have the MRO, maintenance repair organizations right, and we have the location, we have the population, if you have the infrastructure, the policies, if you have the foreign airlines that are able to repatriate their money, if you have the domestic airlines that operate, and you have a very dynamic, buoyant, and robust domestic aviation sector that is actually robust, that is actually taking over West Africa and Central Africa, then we'll actually have done something right that would ensure that from there, we've built capacity, we are optimized, and we're able to see what other opportunities we're going to take advantage of, which is aerospace. So the science and technology part should take care of aerospace. We should deal with what I call the teething problems at this point.
Okay.
I think I agree.
Okay.
I think
so
aerospace was something the immediate past minister added to the Ministry of Aviation about 48 hours before his departure. And I can tell you it was meant to keep the ministry as a standalone and not return back to the Ministry of Transportation where it came from. And secondly, the Aviation and Aerospace University that was part of his roadmap, which he started with the public funds and now moving towards a privately owned organization. It's that aerospace that they added to the ministry just to protect that university. We're doing nothing with aerospace. We have not even solved the numerous problems in the aviation. We've not been able to develop aviation to where we want it. Today, we have no Nigerian airline on the international route. He has said that, and that's why the fares are high. We need to talk capacity on that place. And you're talking about aerospace. Aerospace is for rocket science, engineering, research. That should go to the Ministry of Science and Technology. It has no business with the Ministry of Aviation. It just to retain that ministry, it remains as a standalone, and to help the burgeoning aviation aerospace university that was started by the former Minister of Aviation. That university should have been a department or a section under the Nigerian Civil Aviation the technology area, rather than being a standard and causing more public funds to be allocated to that institution. I think that's what it's all about. Leave that aerospace. There's no aerospace in aviation as of today, because we are here to grapple with the essence of aviation that's meant to build the economy of the country, and that's our main problem. That's what we need to address, and not the aerospace issue.
All right, Tayo, I wonder what now that the minister is here, and I believe after the inauguration today, they'll be going into their various offices, and they'll start the meetings, and then they'll, unveil their whatever plans they have, and so on. What are the things you think? I'm going to ask both of you. What are the things you think the minister should be considering, to address and handle, and are there areas he needs to tread carefully, and so on? Make us understand. What things should he be considering?
I'm looking at the crystal ball now, and let's be factual here. It's government is a continuum, and coincidentally, it's the same party. So it's for all what Olumide has said, it's the same party. So government is a continuum, stated fact, and so they're going to continue with whatever. However, the question and what needs to be highlighted is the fact that this new minister is now going to ensure that is highlighting or is in tandem with the government, the present administration's policy trust. I've gone through what the campaign documents. I've gone through the policy trust. Policy trust about food security. Policy trust about even security as well, economic viability. How do we bring that home to aviation? Food security is, and you've seen that happen in the last 2-3 months. Ensure that aviation, again, cannot stand alone and does not stand alone. If you've heard this several times, aviation is a catalyst for the economy. It actually is a driver for other sectors of the economy, i.e. tourism, i.e. agriculture, i.e. mining. So it's been able to, we have now a solid mineral. So it's been able to ensure that we have not just the flying, the helicopters, or the low-flying fleet. We have what you call the drones, unmanned aviation vehicles that are able to actually do other works. However, so it's to ensure that this minister aligns with that process. Agriculture is forefront now. So it's been able to ensure that what aviation policies is able to drive agriculture, large-scale farming, being able to ensure spraying, being able to ensure that it's surveillance, and to be able to ensure other things are done so that we're able to make sure things are actually optimized within Nigeria. Now, look at security. Once we cannot drive people come to Nigeria because at the moment, we're not a tourist destination. We're driven more for business. 80 or 90% of those that come in strictly for business or what you call visiting families and friends. They come in, do that, and they go back. So after all this is done, we believe if he actually aligns with outstanding, he called them issues, but they are outstanding policies, which he cannot throw out. He cannot throw out the baby and the bathwater. The good thing is from legal background. So he's going to be able to review all existing documents and ensure that it's in the best interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. And the fact that we don't even have money to embark on this project, most of these projects, as it were. So you either have to junk it or have to go out or amend it to actually move forward with it. Some I don't agree with. I'm not a proponent of Air Nigeria. I'm not, and I'm still, that's my position. However, I'm very favorable towards the concession or whatever you call the commercialization of the airports.
Okay, we'll talk about that Air Nigeria thing. For those of us who, like I said, ours is to buy a ticket and fly. But when we see Air Ethiopia or all of those other things, Ghana Air or Rwanda Air or whatever, it feels, where is Nigeria Air? We have that feeling. But of course, the nitty-gritty of what goes behind is what you are looking at. But of course, there'll be time for you to talk to us about that. But what do you think the minister should you know, considering at time like this, he's waiting to go into his office in days?
Well, I think first and foremost, he needs to work on his ego. We noticed that he started as an activist and when he became a politician, you know, it's the way he addresses issues and people wasn't complimentary. I didn't like the way he was addressing Nigerians and talking down on opponents during the political campaign. And you noticed when he was called in for the ministerial screening, he had to bite the humble pie. He apologized for things he had said in the past. And I just hope he will not get himself in such a thing, because in the aviation industry, we have very strong unions, we have very strong professional bodies who are going to stand up and look up to him and say, no, you can't do this. But you see, luckily, he's a lawyer. He's a son. He belongs to the arbitration. So there are so many agreements and documents in place that has caused so much pains in the industry that it needs to take a look at, review, and see how it can be beneficial to Nigeria and Nigerians.
What are some of those?
So it has to do with some of the concession agreement. There's one with the MM2, which has not been resolved. There are other concessionaires that are taking them to court, you know, and other partners. All these documents need to be. We also need to review our bilateral air services agreement and see how it can be favorable to us today. Because today we don't have any Nigerian airline on the international route. So I think those things is legal background should help in that aspect. I am happy somebody is coming from outside the industry. Because we had somebody in the industry in the last 8 years, and yes, we have so much pain. So it's come from outside the industry. So he needs to first bring down his ego and listen to all parties, go through the documents, get a team of lawyers, especially aviation lawyers, will help him look at those documents while he takes the decision. But most importantly for me, he needs to go to the last 5 days of Hadi Sirika as a former minister. Some decisions were taken there. The board that they constituted, I think that board should be thrown out by the federal government. I think he just make sure it is wiped clean, and new board formed with professionals. This was a man we had for almost 8 years. We were on his neck to form a board, but he never did. And I think he should start by showing corporate governance and ensure that a board that each of the agencies have their own board of management. Again, staff audit is very important and urgent, because what happened was that even after Hadi left office, people were still resuming in the different agencies as directors and GMs from letters that were backdated. So he has expanded the agencies, increased the directorship, and increased the cost of operation for the agencies who have unions breathing down their neck every day over the remuneration and the non-payment of new salary rates. So then there's a need to look at the staff audit. Look at what can be. They can correct all the damage that was done in the last 2-3 years to the agencies by staff employed, political staff employed.
All right, it's good to know that.
But you know what? 4 years go by so fast.
Of course, it does.
And we have to understand that this is not a vindictive opportunity. It's things. I disagree to Olumide at this point. If we go back, yes, I'm not saying we should not right the wrongs. What I'm saying is, what are the lesson learned? What the wrongs should be addressed, but what are the lesson learned? Because we find out that, and we've seen this happen, the time it would take to do all this will be a year. We're so used to committees, and these committees will take. We're already in September. We have August done. I'm private sector driven. You go into September, it shuts down.
It's gone.
And by the time the committee submits their report, by the time they now have a white paper, by the time they now have an action plan, you find out that things have been done. And have there been changes? No. So what needs to be addressed at this point to move the industry forward? Then if we...
But aren't those things that Olumide has said, are they not important to move the industry forward?
This just, what he mentioned, this just happened with just this last administration. Olumide would truly say no. Okay. But we're not here to evaluate all the aviation ministers over the years. It did not happen. We had a lot of other people. The union were not happy with outsiders being brought in as GMs. No. And it's happened since way back. since when we had Minister Stella Odwa. It happened then. So why did, I'm not saying let's not fix the wrong. Yes, he's right, but how much time are we going to dwell on this for us to address what the real issues are?
Can I respond?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, please, because I feel we have agencies that need to provide services for the industries. And for the agencies to run efficiently, then you must have the appropriate staff and financial processes in place. As of today, that's not in place. And I think the staff and financial audit of all the agencies need to be a priority of the new administration. Again, if you want to say, well, let's leave everything and leave committee and leave the past and go behind. Today, we have built a terminal in Lagos that we collected loan from. The terminal is poorly situated, and today, most of the big airlines are not using that terminals. We're going to pay the loans. They are demolishing buildings. They're asking the Angra now to move. They want to demolish it. That's because a minister did not go with the airport master plan. There was no consequence for such actions. Now we are living with the pain, and the ADI came, looked away, and now they are demolishing buildings. So if you're asking that everybody should just look at what has happened and move forward, then we continue to demolish and not move forward. And that's my position. There's a need to look back. I don't expect the minister to just come and stand, hit the ground and stand on. No, he has to stand, because there's something wrong with the roadmap that was presented by ADI, and that roadmap must be looked at before we start moving forward. Because that's each aspect of that roadmap is going to hurt our industry, including that airport, the terminals that were concerned in Abuja and Kano. So there's a need for the minister to look at what has happened in that roadmap before it starts going forward. He should not use that roadmap, because that roadmap will not work and people will still resist it. The roadmap has a lot of litigation, protests, and letters from different organizations opposing and discussing how poorly and badly implemented that roadmap. If that regime was good, then why are we having so much bad press about Adeseka and what happened in the last 8 years in the industry? And we just a new man comes in, okay, leave it behind and start working. Why need a new president leave everything behind? Okay, let the subsidy continue. Let forex continue, black market 400. Because he knows there was a problem and it quickly came out. And both the parents said, I must address this issue first before I start working. And that's what I'm saying here. I stand by it that before the new minister starts, he needs to go back into and look at that roadmap. He must halt it. Because it's leading us nowhere. We need an air map, not roadmap. That roadmap is leading us nowhere. I stand by that.
All right, air map and not roadmap. All right, but you talked about the issue of concessions. Ideally, one would say concessions are the best way to go, but the unions don't seem to be comfortable with the issue of concession. What should be considered to have a concession where private industries come handle? Because when we travel abroad, we see, even in very little countries, we see magnificent buildings and, services. But you come to Nigeria, it's the other way around.
We're not bereft of good ideas. We are not bereft of good ideas at all. You go into any policy, and the new minister will bring up new policies. Yes, he doesn't agree with the roadmap. We'll bring out well thought out policies.
Or the air map.
Yes, or the air map. But don't let's beat about the bush, as he found that, what are the issues? When you see what are the causal factors of over and over again, we're seeing the same thing happen. We've had this said, we cannot be doing the same thing, same way, different results. So air map, road map, space map, aeronautical map,
water map,
it's not going to work if we continue this way.
All right.
We've had, what he said in 2 words has been the challenge of political interference. Is it going to continue this way? We hope not, and we pray not, and we enforce. He said that something which I agree with, that the unions and the bodies within the aviation sector will push against that political interference. I hope so, so that in the interest of Nigeria and for Nigerians. So
that has been part of the major challenge.
Yes.
Political interference.
Political interference, because this is what has caused all the litany of challenges and problems that he said. So it's not about the policies, not about the roadmap or the ideas. We are not bereft of that. We have great ideas. It's the implementation. Talk is cheap. It's getting it done and actually having something to show for it. So having to show for it, let's bring this home and say, Honorable Minister, you're in. It's not rocket science. Your 100 days, what are your plans? These are what you call service level agreements for the agencies. NCA just signed what you call the Civil Aviation Master Plan. With that master plan, it states short-term, medium, and long-term plans for the aviation sector. How does that integrate to the policies of this government?
Okay.
Within 100 days, within 3 months, and within 6 months.
Okay. As we're rounding off now, who should the minister be meeting first as he gets into office? Because the point there is he's going to need a lot of advice. The ideas he has about the aviation industry, from being a lawyer that, the prosecuted issues around, and then for living within the aviation, barracks or quarters and all of that, may not necessarily be enough. But him getting into the office to say, okay, I am now the Minister of Aviation, who should he be calling? Who should he be working with, for him to succeed?
Well, I think the first thing we will do is to resume in his office, meet with the Permanent Secretary and directors of the Minister of Aviation. And mark my word, I said Minister of Aviation, yeah? Meet with the director of the Minister of Aviation.
And aerospace too.
But then about aerospace, Minister of Aviation. Then look at the books. Yeah, they need to look at what there will be handover from the former minister. You need to first look at that, study that. And I think thereafter, I think it has to meet with the agency heads. After meeting agency heads, and you're now at liberty to see how you now prioritize meeting with the different professional bodies, the unions, and other groups within the industry. And while we wait for him to marshal out this plan. But definitely, as he was meeting with those groups, he will be hearing some of the things we are seeing today. I noticed you asked your question on concession, and you went into my own.
Yeah, exactly.
Asked him to yes, you asked him a concession, and he went into my own discussion rather than address the concession.
I will take him back. Okay, that's fine.
Because I would respond to him after the concession.
Okay, well, although we don't have a lot of time, but I needed it just in about 30 seconds. Olumide has whipped you back to life. But really, talk to us about this issue of concession. Why is it so important, and how should it be done? Just in a few seconds.
In a few seconds, concession is necessary. Okay. The reality is government does not have the funds to actually take care of the agencies. And some of the agencies, or not all the agencies, are revenue generating. Okay. There are policies and there are those that are revenue generating. So the revenue generating should be commercialized, should be privatized, so that they're able to be in line with best international practice, because that's what is the tangent these days. And being able to provide that service competitive and not to gouging the airlines or those operators within the system, because there's a limit. And IATA and ICAO have actually set the tone for that. You cannot charge more than a certain limit within to ensure that it's a viable commercial and safe environment. Okay. So yes, I'm driven. I am all for commercialization and concessioning of agencies.
Okay, are we satisfied now?
Well, for me, it's more difficult to concession the terminals than the airports, and that's because of the peculiar thing to find ourselves in with the power of the unions. But if you noticed last year, they give fund Yobe Airport, Gombe Airport, and Ebonyi Airport. So how can people be building airport and handing over immediately? Then there's something wrong with the management and planning. So I personally look at, I would rather want to see an airport management company come over and take over fund its entirety, rather than concessioning of the airports.
Okay, all right. Well, these are various perspectives, but we wait to see what the minister is going to think and how he's going to hit the ground running. Thank you so much, Olumide Ohunayo, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Ojiri, thank you so much for coming.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you for always being with me.